Today's case is one of those. It's been in the headlines since 2022, it went through a full murder trial in 2023, and just last week, Netflix dropped a documentary about it that shot straight to #1.
People are heated about this one, like genuinely split down the middle, and honestly, after going through all the evidence ourselves, we get why.
Alright, let's get into it. It's 6:15 in the morning, a quiet suburb outside Cleveland, Ohio. The streets are empty, nobody's watching.
Except the cameras.
A Toyota Camry turns onto a stretch of road near Progress Drive. The driver hits the gas. 30 miles per hour, 50, 70, 90, 100 miles per hour.
The road ends at a brick wall.
The car never brakes, not once. 2 people died that morning. The driver survived. And the question that's consumed the internet, the courtrooms, and now a Netflix documentary sitting at #1.
Was that an accident?
Or was it murder?
You're listening to Podcaster True Crime, where we dig into the cases that don't let you go. I'm Alex.
And I'm Ryan. Today we're getting into the Mackenzie Shirilla case. If you've been on TikTok, Reddit, or literally anywhere online in the past 2 weeks, you've probably already heard the name.
Netflix just dropped a documentary called The Crash, and it has reignited one of the most genuinely divisive true crime debates in recent memory. Guilty verdict, life sentence, and a case where people on both sides feel completely certain they're right.
So let's go back to the beginning, because to understand why this case broke the internet, you have to understand what actually happened that morning. July 31st, 2022, Strongsville, Ohio. A clean, quiet suburb about 20 minutes southwest of Cleveland. The kind of place where nothing really happens.
17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla is driving. In the passenger seat is her boyfriend, 20-year-old Dominic Russo. In the back seat, Dominic's friend, 19-year-old Davion Flanagan. They're coming back from a high school graduation party.
It's early morning, barely any traffic, and at some point, Shirilla turns onto this stretch of road, Progress Drive and Alameda Drive, that essentially dead ends at a commercial building.
She accelerates.
100 miles an hour, into a brick wall.
No braking, no swerving, the surveillance footage. And this is what prosecutors kept coming back to. Shows the car going straight in. Brake lights never activate.
When first responders arrive, all 3 are trapped inside. Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan are pronounced dead at the scene. Shirilla is unconscious, critically injured, and airlifted to a nearby hospital. She goes through multiple surgeries. She survives.
And here's where the story starts to split. Police initially treat it as a traffic accident. Tragic, horrifying, but an accident.
Until detectives pull the surveillance footage. Until they start looking closer at the relationship between Shirilla and Russo, and until Shirilla tells investigators from her hospital bed
that she has no memory of the crash.
None of it.
So, the footage is damning, we've established that, but the prosecution doesn't just hang their case on the absence of braking. They build a portrait of a relationship.
Court filings document a pattern of what prosecutors describe as controlling and volatile behavior on Shirilla's part. She allegedly threatened to key Russo's car. There were incidents where she tried to force her way into his home after he refused to let her in. Multiple documented confrontations.
The theory the prosecution develops is this. Shirilla felt trapped in a relationship she couldn't let go of. A relationship that had become toxic. For both of them. And she chose a way out.
For all 3 of them.
There's also GPS data. And this detail doesn't get talked about enough, suggesting that Shirilla had visited that location before the crash, that she knew where that road ended.
And prosecutors point out she drove out there at 6 in the morning, when almost no one would be around to see it or to help.
Now, what does the defense say?
POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's a real blood pressure condition that can cause sudden fainting or loss of consciousness. Shirilla's attorneys argued she blacked out at the wheel. Medical emergency, not murder.
She didn't testify in her own defense.
Right, and one more thing, also found in the car. Psilocybin mushrooms and a digital scale.
Which became its own set of charges, and didn't exactly help the she lost consciousness suddenly argument.
August 14th, 2023, Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo presides. No relation to Dominic. And this is a bench trial, no jury. The judge decides everything.
She finds Shirilla guilty on all 12 felony counts, 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, drug possession, possessing criminal tools.
And before she reads the verdict, Judge Russo says something that gets replayed constantly. She describes Shirilla's actions as controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful.
She called her literal hell on wheels.
Shirilla sobbed when the verdict was read. She was 19 years old at sentencing. She received 2 concurrent 15-to-life sentences. She won't be eligible for parole until October 2037.
Okay, so that was 2023. Appeals were filed, appeals were denied. The Ohio Supreme Court declined to review the case, and then, May 2026, Netflix releases The Crash.
And the internet loses its mind.
Number 1 on Netflix for multiple days straight. Google Trends just spiking. And the debate falls into 2 very distinct camps.
Camp 1 says, the physical evidence is airtight. You cannot drive a car to 100 miles per hour on a road that dead ends at a wall with 0 braking and call that an accident. That's a choice. That's intent.
Camp 2 says, this was a bench trial. 1 judge, no jury. How do you establish premeditated murder when the only evidence of intent is circumstantial? A toxic relationship doesn't prove she wanted anyone dead.
And then there's Shirilla's family. Her parents have been publicly and consistently vocal. They believe their daughter is innocent. Her father Steve appears in the Netflix documentary, and some comments he makes about marijuana didn't land well.
He was placed on administrative leave from his school job shortly after the documentary dropped. He said his comments were taken out of context by the edit.
On the other side, Dominic Russo's sister Christine spoke out this week, directly responding to the documentary. She called Shirilla rotten to the core. That quote hit hard online.
And there's a former inmate who served time alongside Shirilla and told media she saw no signs of remorse during their time together, which the documentary apparently softens.
The documentary opens up questions more than it closes them. And honestly, that's probably why it's number 1.
Here's what this case keeps forcing us to ask. What does intent actually look like? How do we prove what's happening in someone's mind, especially when the person at the center says they don't remember anything?
The physical evidence is stark. No brakes, 100 miles per hour, a dead-end road, GPS history. But the why, the internal moment where an accident becomes a decision, that's something no camera can capture.
2 young men are dead. Dominic Russo was 20 years old. Davion Flanagan was 19. They were in that car because they trusted the person behind the wheel.
And Mackenzie Shirilla, now 21, is in the Ohio Reformatory for Women, with no parole hearing until 2037. Whether you believe this was murder or a tragedy, those are the facts that don't change.
That's the Mackenzie Shirilla case. If you've watched The Crash on Netflix, we'd love to know where you land on this one. Drop us a message, find us on Podcaster. We read everything.
She never touched the brakes. Was that an accident or a choice? We'll see you next week.